Hi, my name is Sage, and this week, I put up a poll and y'all voted for me to make chocolate chip cookies, and I thought to myself, this is great! I've perfected this recipe to my liking. What could go wrong? Math! Math made everything go wrong this week. I halved my recipe because it makes around 24 cookies, and I had no need for 24 chocolate chip cookies. Could have I froze them? Yeah, but that makes way too much sense. Instead, I stared at the recipe knowing I had to half everything, but then proceeded to not do that. So I'm going to show you what not to do, but also, if it happens, how to fix it. Also, the full recipe will be in the video's bio. So first things first, you're gonna need 1/4 of a cup of butter. And throw that into the baking bowl. Next, use the same 1/4 tool and pour some white sugar in it, and then throw that into the bowl too. After that, get some brown sugar and haphazardly measure that into the 1/4 tool, and you guessed it, throw it in there. It always comes out clumpy, so just do your best. And here is where I mix everything by hand, because like a canine, I got beef with the mixer. It's just so loud and obnoxious, man. But so far, everything is going good with the dry ingredients. Just mix them enough so everything is all one color. And this is where everything goes bad. So for the full 24 cookie recipe, it calls for 1 egg, not for 12. I should have only added half of this. So that was my first mistake. And then here, when I add the 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, this is a real-time video, by the way. I did not slow it down. I am so very precise with only adding 1/2 of a teaspoon. As if that makes any difference, I added the whole egg. If there's one thing that I learned about this recipe over the years, is that this recipe can be very finicky with the liquids added, and you gotta be somewhat precise, but don't worry. I save it in the end, but first, I'm gonna add 1/2 of a cup of flour, and I'm hoping that this is gonna work for me, but it doesn't, but it will. Foreshadowing. So at this point, I am more than fully aware that this looks wrong because it's way too liquidy still, even with the flour added, but I just keep going and adding ingredients because, well, I ignore my problems, that's why. And now it's time to add in the cocoa. And I add in 1/3 of a cup of that, thinking, you know what, that's more dry ingredients. This should be great, and it's not. But don't worry, everything gets saved, I promise. Here I add 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and it was only supposed to be 1/2 of a teaspoon. That was my bad again. I wasn't halving anything. I hate math. And here I add in the salt, and I never measure it with math, just with vibes. And then I mix everything together. And mixing it takes a hot minute because it's now super thick. Plus, it gets darker and darker, which is great because that means the cocoa is all nice and mixed in there. After that, I get some milk. Also, I never noticed that the milk has 1% MF on it before, which then reminded me of that one interview with Keke Palmer when someone asked her what her favorite curse word is.
What's your favorite curse word, motherfucker?
I love her so much. And this recipe calls to add in 1 tablespoon of milk for the 24 cookies. So naturally, I add in 1 teaspoon for the 12, but then I second guess myself and start to panic because I already added in too much liquid, so I don't even pour in the full teaspoon. But then I add in the chocolate chips, and I don't measure chocolate chips. You measure them by measuring with your heart. I then go back to hand mixing everything together, and this is what it looks like once it's all done, and I know that it's wrong because it's still too liquidy and all the chocolate chips fell to the bottom. And this is where I fix my mistakes. So I take the 3/4 cup and fill in only the bottom with a small amount of flour, and then I do that twice to mix it into my cookie dough. And what I'm looking for is for the cookie dough to feel like Play-Doh. Once it feels like Play-Doh, you're golden. And since I'm a visual learner, this is the before and after the chocolate chips naturally just spread out amongst everything and don't all clump at the bottom, which is perfect. Then here I break off small pieces and roll them into little clumps, and I get exactly 12. And once they're all rolled out, I then pop them into the oven for 9 minutes. And this is what they look like once they're out. So yay, this was my journey of trying to do math while baking and filming at the exact same time. Tell me if y'all make these at home, I would love to know. Also, if you want to vote for next week's video idea, the poll will be up on Saturday at 10 a.m. on my YouTube channel. Thanks so much for watching, I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.